Well, it was a big step. It has been good. We came from a very small town down in Costa Rica.
Making the move to Indiana. Learn more about the Hoosier business behind the push to get remote workers to call Indiana home. Plus, Northeast Indiana positioning itself as a MedTech global gateway for international companies to set up shop. Details in the business of health. And
we're growing plants, we're growing knowledge, we're growing connections.
The University of Evansville on a mission to help feed the hungry. Inside Indiana Business is next.
From Indiana's business news leader, this is IBJ Media's Inside Indiana Business with Gerry Dick. Presented by Elevate Ventures and Indiana University.
Hello and welcome to Inside Indiana Business. I'm Gerry Dick. Well, Terre Haute and the Wabash Valley, among almost 75 Hoosier communities. There's a Holman Center recently renovated in Terre Haute. But there are Terre Haute and Vigo County, that area among 75 communities with a message to those who work from home, who don't live in Indiana. Why not live, work, and play here? It's all part of Indianapolis-based MakeMyMove's mission to recruit out-of-state remote workers by offering thousands of dollars in incentives. And MakeMyMove is already paying big dividends in Indiana and beyond.
The most beautiful things that I have seen, it's the fall.
People like Adam and Ari, who moved to southern Indiana from Central America.
When I said, "Oh, I'm moving from Costa Rica and I'm coming to Indiana," people were like, "What? What are you talking about?" You know, like, why would you do that?
Or Taylor Lake, a local business owner who now calls the South Bend Elkhart region home.
I believe one of the biggest challenges is for the residents to realize you're sitting in a gold mine.
Or Mike Martin, who brought his affordable housing lessons learned in South Carolina to Muncie.
Mike Martin is a musician, community builder, and a strong coffee drinker.
Caffeine. Mike, Ari, and Taylor have one thing in common. They're living and working in Indiana because of Indianapolis-based recruiting company MakeMyMove. Inside Indiana Business reporter Mary Rachel Redmond with more now on how MakeMyMove is making a big economic impact across the state and why Noblesville is one of the top 3 destinations for people to move to.
in a world where remote work has become the norm, many are looking to leave crowded cities for a more affordable, community-centric place to call home. Enter MakeMyMove, a program that's helping the state recruit a more diverse workforce.
Around the Midwest, I think the communities that are going to make it and be the most successful long-term are the communities that are going to grow their population. You know, we've been focused on that for the past, probably decade in the Hoosier state, and we've grown in population. And I think a community is only going to be successful if it continues to grow and thrive and attract varying demographics to our community, different industries to our community, and MakeMyMove is certainly helping us do that.
Reagan Dotson is one of the many who decided to leave major metropolitan Atlanta for Indianapolis, enticed by the incentives offered through MakeMyMove.
I just typed in grants to move to Indiana and MakeMyMove popped up. I applied for it on a Sunday afternoon. Literally the next day I get something from them that says like I was approved for it. And I'm like, what?
And it's not just Indianapolis. Nearly 50 cities and towns across the Hoosier state, from Tipton to Terre Haute, have signed up with MakeMyMove. 2 central Indiana communities are now clients. Both Avon and Noblesville are actively recruiting people into their region, the latter offering prospective residents $15,000 along with a number of other perks.
We have golf passes, for example. We have a Chamber of Commerce membership, for example, concert tickets at the #1 ranked outdoor amphitheater in the world, Ruoff Music Center, which is in Noblesville. You can have coffee with me as the mayor. We don't want you just to occupy space in Noblesville. We want you to be a thriving, engaged citizen. So a lot of our package has been revolving around programs like that.
But it's not just about the cash incentives.
Even though I had kind of a sense of community in Atlanta, I've found a more qualified sense of community in Indianapolis. I wanted that balance of like fun, but also like I'm 33, I want to start a family and I want to get in somewhere where I can buy a house that's not $1 million for a 2-bedroom. And I want to meet friends that are going to be my friends for the rest of my life.
While Hoosier cities continue to attract residents, MakeMyMove is also helping local businesses by bringing in fresh spending power.
I mean, we're spending money. We want to get out and about. You want to go to local businesses and go out on the scene. And that's going to help the local economy here in Indianapolis.
For every 30 people come to Noblesville, that had a nearly $2 million annual economic impact between property taxes, sales taxes, new spending, and that has a huge ripple impact for our state long term.
Mary Rachel Redmond, Inside Indiana Business.
A big impact indeed. All right, Mary Rachel, thank you. In all, since MakeMyMove started in 2021, it has helped more than 2,000 remote workers move to states across the country. And this week, MakeMyMove on the move again, announcing a new partnership aimed at recruiting 50 new households by the end of May here in central Indiana. MakeMyMove co-founder and chief operating officer Evan Hawk is here now with the scoop on the plan and incentives to lure talent to Indiana. Evan is always welcome.
Good to see you, Gary.
This partnership with the Indy Chamber, Indiana Economic Development Corporation, Central Indiana Regional Development Authority, the latest of what are now 34 partnerships around the state of Indiana, right?
That's right. You know, it's Indiana, first state in the country that really has a statewide initiative to attract these workers, and it's paying big dividends.
Yeah. Well, as you look at it specifically with this program, as I mentioned, you want to get 50 households here, new households by the end of May. What are the incentives? What's the pitch to get workers here?
You know, it's a pretty easy sell. We're already 10% there, and it's because Central Indiana is such a great place to live, and the people is the big draw. So the program's supported by a program called the Indifluencers that help get these people connected and start to build their connections to the region. But beyond that, there's a wealth of amenities. So sports tickets, race tickets, symphony tickets, all these things to really get people connected to the local community.
Yeah, and the only requirement, I guess, on the other side, there are a few of those, right?
That's right, yeah. We're looking for remote workers that make at least $50,000 or more and are moving from out of the region and want to stay here for at least a year.
You know, I think part of the equation, you hear people say it all the time, once people come here, they tend to like to stay here, right?
They fall in love, yeah. You know, it's a war for talent right now. States across the country are going on the offensive and starting to attract them. And Indiana is really a leader in this. We've attracted over 700 households so far, and we do expect those people to stay long term.
As you look at cities around the state of Indiana participating that are really doing well, what are some of those cities?
You know, Evansville, Noblesville, South Bend, all crushing it. You know, and really it's a way for them to sell their community, for them to tell what they love about the place, what they hope for, and that message really resonates. It's a tight-knit set of communities, and that message is attractive to remote workers.
And again, the bottom line in getting more people to live here, it's a real critical issue for not only Indiana, states all over the country, but here in Indiana to get more workers here is a big issue.
It's a big issue. People and talented workers bring economic impact. We worked with an economist out of IU to calculate that impact. About for every $100,000 of income that we bring, it generates $83,000 in economic impact each year.
Yeah, interesting. Final question for you. The Census Bureau says Indianapolis actually tops the national average when it comes to the share of remote workers. So
That's right. You know, it's our remote workers are looking for affordability and community connection, two things the state has in spades. And we look at Indiana generally and central Indiana as being a mecca for those workers.
Evan Hawk is the co-founder and COO at MakeMyMove. Evan, thanks very much. We'll look forward to following the story.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, now on to a big move in central Indiana connected to the world of auto racing. Fishers city leaders giving the green light for Cadillac to set up its Formula One headquarters there. The $200 million facility near Indianapolis Regional Airport, just off 96th Street, is already under construction and was originally planned to be home to Andretti Global, which is now renovating a former Indianapolis Star printing building on Indy's northwest side to move its headquarters there. The Cadillac F1 facility in Fishers expected to employ about 300 people. Coming up next, Indiana flexing its muscle in the world of defense. How southern Indiana landed a new $50 million hypersonic testing facility and what it means for new jobs in the region.
Here's what's making news around Indiana. Brought to you by the Indiana Association of Realtors. Indiana's 21,000 realtors. The neighbors you know, the experts you can count on.
Well, Indiana upping its profile as a major player in the defense industry, specifically when it comes to ultra-high-speed flight like this. California-based defense technology company Kratos broke ground this week on a new hypersonic testing facility at the Westgate Crane Technology Park. That's in Odin. The company is making an initial $50 million investment for the hypersonic testing facility, which could create up to 100 jobs. Once complete, it will include full-scale environmental testing capabilities to develop new technologies. Kratos says the facility's proximity to Naval Surface Warfare Center Crane Division brings much added benefits.
Things like magazines to store rocket motors. They've got a nice test range there for Prometheus that we could potentially leverage. So being close to the base is just an added value for both facilities.
Operations at the Westgate Crane Technology Park expected to begin at the end of next year. Well, plans to bring a data center like this one moving forward in rural Hendricks County. Pittsburgh's town council approving a rezoning request, paving the way for Denver-based Vantage Data Center to build a campus on property owned by Charles D. Smith at the family farms. No word on how many new jobs may come with the project or when construction could begin. The city of Kokomo relaunching a program that will transform vacant lots into new home properties. The Kokomo Infill program will offer the lots free to developers who will sign an agreement requiring them to build a new single-family home within 1 year. A similar project last year in Kokomo resulted in 25 new residential construction projects. Plans to build a racetrack in Allen County are being met with support, but also some opposition. The Summit City Motorsports Club wants to build the track near Fort Wayne International Airport and says it could be a $40 to $60 million investment. This week, hundreds of people attended a meeting about the project, some sharing concerns. A public hearing is the next step in the process. Well, bridging barriers in Noble County, the Convention and Visitors Bureau there, Northeast Indiana, taking a unique approach to make businesses more accessible to those with disabilities. The initiative is starting with a survey of managers at businesses and attractions in Noble County to get some feedback.
So we're looking at places like outdoor recreation spaces. We're looking at restaurants. We're looking at our hotels, our shops, any physical site attractions. We have a lot of beautiful museums. We have a nature sanctuary. We're home to a state park. It's not about shaming anyone. It's about understanding what our current accessibility map is, for lack of a better term, and what wins we have in the community, what we can highlight that these are steps we've made to be equitable to everyone, but then also where can we grow as a destination.
The Noble County Convention and Visitors Bureau has also made improvements to its website to make it more user-friendly for people with visual and hearing challenges. Indiana playing a leading role in innovation in terms of what happens next to the cans, bottles, and milk jugs you see rolling along the conveyor belt. Republic Services and Blue Polymers are opening a state-of-the-art recycling complex in Indianapolis. It's the first in North America that basically extends the life of plastics. It's a $180 million investment into two facilities, which are designed to work together to recycle plastics for use in food packaging and other applications. Until now, those plastic jugs and bottles were generally downcycled into carpet, clothing, or construction pipe.
We're now setting the tone for the United States, right? We're doing something nobody has done. And as we do that, others will follow. Right? And as the United States moves, the rest of the world will move. And all of a sudden, rather than a single facility, we are probably on the precipice here of starting a movement right here in the great state of Indiana.
The new Republic Recycling Center expected to create about 125 jobs. IBJ reporter Taylor Wooten has more on the facility now at IBJ.com. Coming up next, Indiana tackling a problem that even Hollywood's biggest stars have faced.
Food isn't just fuel to live, it's fuel to grow. My family relied on public assistance to help provide meals for us. These meals fueled my involvement in theater and the arts as a child, which fostered my love for acting.
Not getting enough to eat knows no boundaries. Even Academy Award winner Scarlett Johansson dealt with it. See how Hoosier leaders are working to solve the problem here in Indiana.
Right here in America, a shocking number of our neighbors are facing hunger. There is enough food to feed all of us, but still millions of people face hunger every year.
In Indiana, the number is 1 in 8. 1 in 8 Hoosiers not getting enough to eat. Well, this week, Hoosier agriculture and food leaders from all over Indiana came together at the Indiana State Fairgrounds for the first Indiana Hunger Summit to help tackle food insecurity. From food banks to farmers, the summit attracted nearly 300 stakeholders from Indiana's food chain to address an issue that impacts an estimated 1 million Hoosiers. The summit was the brainchild of Corteva AgriScience executive Heidi Spahn, who believes an all-hands-on-deck approach is needed to attack a daunting challenge.
It's just a personal passion of mine that everybody should have food to eat, that we should bring all of the collaborators in this food space together, all the way from the farmer producer to the last mile, and thought that as a state, we can do better in addressing food insecurity if we come together and collaborate and network and think about ways that we can address this challenge.
The summit included a showcase featuring innovative ways of addressing the hunger issue from around the state and a keynote from Feeding America's CEO Claire Babineau-Fontenot. Organizers say they anticipate the Hunger Summit could become an annual event. Well, we begin this week's Business of Health in Fort Wayne, where a renowned research center is pushing to become a magnet for MedTech companies from around the globe to plant roots in Indiana. Business of Health reporter Kylie Valletta here now with more. Kylie.
Well, that's right, Gary. And leaders are casting a wide net, saying that magnet will pull international companies to Northeast Indiana. For decades, the Parkview Mirro Center for Research and Innovation has been helping startups commercialize their ideas, mostly in early stage medical devices. The success has been snowballing, so the region is now launching the MedTech Global Gateway to step on the gas when it comes to attracting international companies. The Northeast Indiana Regional Partnership says the strategy is to create a soft landing place for early medtech companies by using tools already at the Mirro Center. Medical teams to see if a product meets a clinical need, researchers to test it, and a health informatics team to help design it.
We just have to lower the barrier for them to land in Indiana. Visa support, can they get non-dilutive funding through the IDC? If they do establish a headquarters in Indiana, that'll be a lot easier. And so that we've struggled with that in the past, where we tried to help get funding for international companies, but it's been historically a barrier. But I think that now we have a clear line of sight on engagement of the state to help lower that barrier.
The Fort Wayne region is already a sweet spot in the state for MedTech, with 100 plus medical device and technology companies generating about $19 billion annually, and the orthopedic capital of the world just 40 miles to the west. Some Purdue University civil engineers have study results that may make you want to snuff out that scented candle. The Boilermakers are the first to study how fragrance products like wax melts, essential oil diffusers, and other air fresheners pollute home air quality. Their research took place inside Purdue's Tiny House Lab, a first-of-its-kind lab that simulates a home environment. The team found the scented products fill the air with microscopic particles that are small enough to get deep into the lungs and spread to other organs.
The concentrations of nanoparticles that are being released during use of these scented products is very high. It is imperative that we understand and further investigate what negative health effects these particles can cause.
Purdue's Tiny House Lab has high-tech sensors that measure these new particles created by scented products. More studies are needed to evaluate the health risk.
Back to that first story, Kylie, on that MedTech effort. When you think of Warsaw, Northeast Indiana,
Right.
you think of medical orthopedics, but this initiative is about more than orthopedics.
Right. I mean, orthopedics is the first thing that comes to mind, but
Right.
Fort Wayne Metals is there. It is the largest producer of medical grade wire in the world.
Yep.
And these are wires that go into stents and pacemakers. It's got a long legacy there. So it goes far beyond orthopedics in Fort Wayne. That's just one example.
That's great. And Fort Wayne Metals is one of the great great entrepreneurial stories in the
Exactly.
state, too.
Right.
Thanks very much, Kylie.
Yep.
Well, how a new partnership between a Southwest Indiana startup and students from the University of Evansville is planting the seeds to fight food insecurity.
Time now for our Eye on Education, brought to you by PNC Bank.
Well, Indiana, one of the top 10 states when it comes to producing much of what we eat. Purdue University Center for Food and Agricultural Business partnering with world-renowned management consulting firm Kearney to enhance ag research and engagement. This new partnership includes getting students more familiar with farming industries through internships and initiatives. Well, Purdue and the Indiana Hunger Summit we reported on earlier, not the only Indiana initiatives looking at ways to tackle food insecurity. The We Grow ACES program at the University of Evansville on a similar mission.
We really have an opportunity to educate folks on how to prepare food and how to kind of shift their palates, because sometimes vegetables aren't exactly top of mind.
We Grow ACES will use the Pure Produce shipping container to teach about nutrition, agriculture, and sustainability. Dr. Rob Shelby planted the seeds for the project.
I love growing things. I love developing people. And this is one of those connections, I think, where both of those meet.
In addition to opportunities for students and faculty, plans for education and access will reach the Evansville community.
UE is the only college in the world that's both a Changemaker campus, home to a Promised Neighborhood, and now home to one of these pods. For the thousands of kids we serve in the Promised Neighborhood, it's an actual outcome in that grant, students being healthy.
The container farm can grow produce year-round and will be the first one at a university.
It's incredibly exciting because this is something that I think has the perfect intersection of need and capability because we are eating better food. I believe this has the potential to truly become a precedent for national replication and beyond. And to me, that is extremely exciting. That is an extremely exciting thing to be a part of, to play our small part of.
And a shout out to producer Michelle Kaufman and editor Clint Ehrbacher for that report. That's all the time we have for this edition of Inside Indiana Business. We leave you this week with a touch of March Madness, Indiana style. I'm Gerry Dick. Go out and make it a successful week.